All right, we're back. We're going to we'll continue talking with Anthony Clifton about emergency management and leadership, and specifically how we can better promote leadership in emergency management profession and by the emergency management professional or practitioner. So Anthony, when it comes to leadership in the emergency management realm, where do you feel we are now, and especially where do you feel that we can grow?
Well, right now I see us as being kind of in transition. We talked earlier about emergency management being young, and 50 years is not young, but as far as comparing it to others, we are just, I believe, beginning to overcome that hump between practice and academia and theory, and putting that together to form how we lead. And what I mean by that is a lot of us, including me, I came from the responder side of the house. And when I got into emergency management, I believed I knew a lot. And I did know a lot about response. But I very quickly found out that I knew very little about prevention, protection, mitigation, and recovery. The response mission area was fine, but particularly mitigation is hard, and recovery is hard. And those two areas require true leadership. And when I say leadership, what I mean by that is that you cannot rely on doing things the same way we've always done it. That is my worst fear, is having somebody say, we do it this way because we've always done it this way. Well, if you keep doing it that way, you're going to keep getting the same results. And unfortunately, we have that. And so it's going to take leaders in emergency management, leaders in the community, to get outside that box and get some new innovative thoughts going, so that we begin to transition into that practice of being able to take mitigation and work it into normal everyday life. We say, well, mitigation is expensive, and it is expensive, especially when you start talking about retrofitting. But when you talk about mitigation on the front side, so for example, in the South here where I am, we are the Dixie Highway for tornadoes. The tornadoes come out of the Midwest, and the jet stream brings them right across North Mississippi, North Alabama. And so we have tornadoes regularly. As you know, on the West Coast, you guys are earthquake folks. And if you go back and try to retrofit for earthquake, it's very expensive. But if you build a house with earthquake in mind up front, it's very inexpensive. Same with a tornado. The only thing you do is, believe it or not, there are still areas in the world that do not bolt a house down to its foundation. It's just a foundation is laid and the house is set on top of it. And when a tornado comes along, it will literally shift that house on its foundation, which means the house is totally destroyed. Just a few dollars worth of bolts into that foundation would have mitigated that. Same thing with taking a roof off. Just a few dollars worth of hurricane straps on a roof will keep that roof in place during high wind events. So we have to begin to transition so that we lead the community into recognizing that these are mitigation practices that we can do. We can do them now. We can do them with new construction. We can do it as it's going on, versus having the very expensive process of having to go back and retrofit later. So that's just one example. And so we're going to have to get out of that box of thinking we've always done it this way, so we'll continue to do it this way. So the leader has to be somebody that's sometimes willing to swim against the stream. We've got elections to deal with. That's a fact of life. We deal with the electeds in our, at least in the government service. In private practice, not so bad, but in private practice, we have stockholders and shareholders and CEOs to deal with. But in government practice, the elected officials live and die by what the population thinks. Therefore, we have to lead, and we have to be the leaders. It has to come out of our office and say, these are good prevention measures and things that you need to consider on the front side, so that we don't have to go back and get into it in recovery on the backside. That's easy to say. And you've heard me say it before. It's kind of like saying whole community. When we're talking about whole of community, that's an easy word to say. I can sit here and say, we need to get the whole community involved. That's really, really easy words to say, but it's very, very difficult to do. So that's where you're really tested as a leader in your community. You're tested as a leader inside your department, and then it has to come with new and innovative ways to do things. And sometimes they don't always work. I've got, for example, talking about tornadoes. One of the things, we have a large non-English as second language community here in the county. We have difficulty with information and warnings to them. So I have teamed up with a sign builder, one of these guys who put up these big electronic billboards, and we're talking about putting information and warning on those signs at the same time. So if we set the storm sirens off, we will be able to take over these signs and pop up flashing messages in different languages, so that we try to reach the whole community. That's just one of my personal little things that I don't know where I came up with that idea, but it was just an idea that popped in. And so we're going to try and see what happens. That's, it's not new. It's just a new way to approach trying to reach out in the community. So we've got to get out of our thought process of having always done it that way. Following tradition is not leadership. So to be a leader is sometimes going to be somewhat controversial. It may not be an easy path to travel, and it's certainly not a quick path. It's something that you have to do. You've got to build those community coalitions. You have to really get out and know your community, know it well. Be willing to spend the hours out there on the street, pounding the pavement, getting support for whatever project you have, and getting those people involved. And that is the hardest thing. The hardest piece, I believe, of our job is to motivate those folks. And when I say those folks, I'm talking about the community. It's hard to motivate them to get excited about mitigation. It's hard to get them excited about coming to an LEPC meeting or any other kind of planning meeting, because we are pulled in so many different directions. We've got the kids have Little League. We've got to take care, those of us in midlife are having to maybe take care of an elderly parent. We're having to worry about all of those things that are going on in real life. So that while it's our job as emergency managers to be thinking of this stuff, a lot of people don't take time to sit down and think, well, what are my concerns? What are my biggest threats? What are the biggest hazards? What do I have to deal with? And when they do think about it, they say, well, there's somebody out there that's going to take care of this for me. Well, unfortunately, in the way we are headed, I don't see a lot of help coming. I think as just normal routine life gets to be more and more expensive, the cost of government gets more and more expensive. So we're not going to be able to depend on FEMA like we once did. Those declarations are going to be harder and harder to get. So we have to be prepared, and we have to, if we can keep ourselves prepared and help our neighbors be prepared, that will help our community be prepared. And if we can do those three things, that's what, in my opinion, will drive us to become those community leaders we have to be.
No, that's a great point. And with leadership, and I've been saying that it's a 360. We're leading people at all different angles. Some that outrank us, depending on where we are. Some who are elected officials. Some who may work within the same organization, or ultimately, community members in general. So we have to learn how to influence and move. Basically like a chessboard, people around in order to make these decisions that we make, but also to get the support that we need in order to do the things that we need to do to keep our community safe, our family safe, and our individual safe as well. But I keep saying that it comes down to us as the individuals, the practitioners that are doing the job, that need to step into leadership roles and push the profession forward. And in doing so, they will push themselves, the professional, forward. But a lot of that comes with knowing how to engage those you are working with. And that may be, that changes throughout the day. I mean, you may be working with leadership, you may be working with those who are peers to you, you may be working for those who are, depending on where you work, an organization, jurisdiction, that are outside customers or jurisdictional citizens. So that changes, but the main point there is to actively be engaged in the process of engaging with them, the whole community. And the whole community means everybody, whether that's someone who outranks you or not.
Yes, sir. And it's also my belief that we're going to need, and this is in pretty much all areas of emergency management, we've got to get out of the tactical thought process. We've got to get into strategic thought process. A strategy
Beautiful
has to be there. We have to play, you said it, a chessboard. I mean, we got to play chess, not checkers. We've got to think strategically, not tactically. And that's one of the
statement.
Very difficult things that we have to do is, for me, I have found that it's very difficult to get out. I want to run home to what I'm comfortable with, and that's tactics. I want to worry about the how, not the what. And it's not my job to worry about the how. It's my job to worry about the what. And so if we can figure out strategically what we're trying to improve or what we're trying to do, and then we turn it over to the tacticians, which are the responders, which are the electeds, which are the people who work under us, over us. We have to form some kind of strategy so that those tactical thinkers can really do their job in a robust manner.
Yeah, that's a beautiful statement. And ultimately, and what a lot of people forget is that before you can go tactical in any organization, you have to have a plan to implement. And so being strategic beforehand makes the tactical operations go that much smoother and result in a lot less death, destruction, and mayhem. So,
that's
great point.
Well, that's what I really learned, and that's what I took away. You were talking earlier about the EMPP, the Emergency Managers Professional Program. Out of the academies, that's what I really took away from that. Is it really worked to develop my strategic thought process, and it helped me get away from so much tactical thought. Now, and I'm not saying tactics are not important, but in what we do, we have to step back and we have to look at that 30,000 foot level and get back away from it and look at it strategically and see truly what is the problem, not just what do we think is the problem, because it's like anything else. You like you said, you got to have a plan, and without that planning piece, it's hard to develop good tactics. And right now in our geopolitical environment, we've got some bad actors out there that are very smart people. Very bad things can happen that may be man-made that we've not thought about. We have to take those kind of things into consideration. I mean, you look at these shootings that have occurred over the last few months, mass casualty incidents. if we look at that just for what it is, I mean, it's a mass casualty incident. We have those all day, every day. But these are different because they're bad actors that are, they're things that maybe we have not practiced, we have not planned. And unfortunately in our country, we are reactionary in a lot of our planning processes, because, the very first thing that happens after you see some event happen on TV, everybody comes out of the woodwork wanting to do an active shooter exercise, or they want to do a hurricane exercise, or they want to do this. We plan in this country our next disaster based on our last one. And what we really have to do is step back. We have to look at our community. We have to look at what our threats and hazards are. And then we have to step back into that role and take an active participation in the planning for whatever we really realize is a threat in our community. And those threats are ever changing. They are constantly changing. And if, people don't realize, a lot of people don't want to know. That's part of the problem, is that we've got that head in the sand. If I don't think about it, it's not going to happen. Well, we know, and that's part of what we have to face, is that we know what the threats and hazards in the community are. So therefore we have to go out, face those, bring together the players that are going to be either mitigating, responding to, or recovering from those events. And we have to have a plan in place to deal with that. And that's the reason I say strategic thinking is so important in leadership. And that's at all levels, whether it's business, it's as simple as we don't have to make it hard in order to make it effective. Effective incident management is as simple as span of control, unity of command, and management by objective. That's it. You can run anything if you remember those three things. That's leadership. That's understanding what you're trying to achieve, and then taking the tools you have at hand and going and doing that job, whatever it may be.
Yeah, great point. And, just to touch quickly on your point about being very reactionary, we are reactionary, but we also have very short memories. So, we plan our next disaster based on our last disaster, and that is an avenue which we could change if we step into more roles and start educating and advocating the importance of these things when it comes to preparedness, mitigation, and even prevention on many of the things that we experience as emergency managers or first responders that we could avoid or prevent or limit the damages of, if we had more people educating on why they were important, how they can implement, and ultimately, and even more than that, how they can get involved in the process is going to be a huge part there. But we need to, as leaders, step in and change the mindset from reactionary and short-term memory to a response. There's a difference between responding to and reacting to a situation, right? And response comes from planning and preparedness, and being prepared to respond to whatever may come up. And if we can transition that mindset to being more ready to respond to those, and have more of a long-term strategic memory in what it is we do, our future will definitely be a lot sunnier going forward.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is, a lot of times, and I know I do, I spend a lot of time worrying about mitigation. A lot of time is worried about recovery. I don't spend as much time as I should worrying about the other mission areas, particularly protection and prevention. Those two mission areas are difficult to get your arms around. But that's our job. That's what we do, is we have to get to a point to where that preparedness model has to be an ongoing lifestyle. And that has to permeate throughout the community.
And I think one of the big areas too for us, and just in general, that is consistency. if we can just develop a higher level of consistency in everything that we do, um, we would be better at everything that we do. And the job I don't even want to call it a job. I want to call it a profession. The profession and the professional will just get better every day because we will be more consistent in what we're doing. But the consistency comes from knowing that we need to be working to get better every day. So if we're consistently working to get better every day, we will get better every day. And we will get better at what we do and in our planning and in our communication and our leadership and in our influence and our community engagement. And it will all get better if we consistently do these things. But one of the hardest things for any human being to do is be consistent. And nevertheless, in a job where things pop up over and over and over again that are not consistent. So we can't always plan for what's going to happen tomorrow or in the next hour, really. So it's hard to be consistent when so many things can be the squirrel that we have to chase.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We have to, as leaders, if we're going to accept that role, and whether we like it or not, you and I have been around long enough to have to consider ourselves as leaders in the community. Leaders, and I want to talk about the community now. I'm talking about the emergency management community, the profession. We have to really step out and make a concerted effort to carry this message to the next generation, because I'm getting old and I'm going to have to leave this with somebody. And so it's our job. You've talked numerous times about mentoring. It's really our job that we go out and pass this information, because there's so much institutional information that we have out there that's not written down, and it's not easily conveyed in writing. It's not easily, because a lot of it is things that have been developed through experience, and we need to pass that experience on, and we need to take that to the next level and institutionalize it some way, somehow. Now, how that is, I don't know, but we need to get that. We need to get that memorialized some kind of way, so we don't lose it. And that's one of the things that I really would like to work on, is the fact that so many people got so tired during COVID that they punched out. They stepped away, and now they're rocking the grandkids on the front porch. But there's so much knowledge out there that we need to utilize. We need to get them. We need to take those people who have that 25 and 30 years of experience that have punched out. We need to go get them and use them as mentors, and try to gather up as much of that knowledge as we can, so that we can pass it to the next generation. Otherwise, it's wasted.
Yeah, but more than that, the great resignation is what they're calling it. But it's not necessarily just those who are of retirement age. It is anybody who got overwhelmed, overworked, underappreciated in their job. And that's not just the EM. That's every industry, every profession, every if you can name it out there, that they had someone was working it and they felt that way, they decided they didn't want to do it anymore. And this great resignation is definitely taking place, and it's transition to other things: online work, remote work, business building, which is amazing if you want to start your own business, which is what I'm doing. So it's one of those things that it could be. It's on the scale, right? Sometimes it's really good, sometimes really bad. Depends on the way you're looking at it. But a lot of it is gaining that information that we need, but being willing to give it. I mean, emergency management. One of the reasons why I love it so much is it was the willingness to network and collaborate and aid your fellow EM or anybody, for that matter, is just like, is more than I've seen it anywhere. But I still see individuals in this field who are very stubborn when it comes to the new generation or the next generation, or the way they view education, or whatever it is, right? So we need to have that more willingness to collaborate, communicate, and exchange ideas, and that will come from just an open mind.
Well, absolutely. And I think by doing what you and I are doing, sitting here having a conversation, I think these kind of conversations hopefully will spur somebody to think about themselves and go out and decide to be a mentor for somebody, or at the same time realize that maybe I need some mentorship and go seek somebody. And that's the thing, is I'm always willing. I love to talk to people. I love to have interaction with folks, and we've always said plagiarism is one of the highest forms of flattery in emergency management. That's kind of the way it is. The more I can pass my ideas on to somebody else, the happier I am. And we have to go after it with that foundation of service, being out there, being willing to serve one another, serve the community, serve each other, and in doing so, we serve the universe. And I know that's corny and hokey, but that's what I believe is I believe we're all put here for service of some kind, and whatever that may be, whatever your chosen profession or your whatever profession you're put into, whatever place in the universe you are put is the place where you need to be, and at that particular point in time, and do your best at whatever that may be. And I think that's where we have to really go out and try to help people get into that mindset of service.
Beautiful statement. Well, on that note, if anybody would like to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Well, I'm pretty easy to find. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You can email me. My personal email, which I'm more than happy to give out, is Clifton, Clifton 2167 @gmail.com. My work email is aclifton, ACLIFTON @DeKalbCountyAL.us. That's DEKALBCOUNTYAL.us. You can email me there, whatever you need. If you can't find me, you're not looking. I'm relatively easy to find. I'm in the phone book.
And for all those who may be driving while they're listening, or I will share that information with his permission in the show notes, so you can go and grab his contact information from there as well.
I'd like to say, feel free to call me anytime, day or night, if I can be of service anyway to anybody. We're all neighbors here.
As an example of true leadership, Anthony, and I truly appreciate the time that you devoted to this conversation today. I truly appreciate you as an emergency manager, but more than that, as a friend. And I look forward to the next time we get to sit down and have dinner and exchange some stories.
Well, same here, Dan, and I appreciate what you're doing here. I think the podcast is a great idea. It's much needed. And again, glad to be of service to you and hopefully somebody out there.
Thank you so much.